Hi, everybody. Welcome back to GSX 2018 with Chuck Harrell, SecurityGuideTV.com. Our next contestant, Mr. James Cameron of the Security Group.
Correct, Security Concepts Group.
Security Concepts Group.
Yep, out of Las Vegas, Nevada, right here.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Now, and what's your website?
My website is www.scg-lv.com.
And you were a speaker.
Correct. I spoke today on the topic of workplace violence and active assailant management training. So it was more of a perspective of, as security managers, what do we have to protect our organizations from as far as liability, and then program and policy development, and then also, some of the unfortunate numbers of costs associated with active assailants and workplace violence.
In the aftermath.
Correct.
Right, but before that, it doesn't really cost much to do something about it.
It actually costs a tremendous amount less.
Exactly.
As it would appear, than it takes to pay for damages afterwards. Absolutely.
So what is the what's the resistance? Why isn't everybody standing in line to get this information and come up with something? It's perplexing to me.
Well, I think it's a hot topic, and then also people are putting together their own policies and figuring out, okay, where are my gaps?
Without experts, though, right? I mean, just kind of basic plans.
Right, basic plans, and that's where I really stepped in today to try to help them and guide them as security directors to help sell it to the C-suites of why they need to have these programs and how it's cost effective. You may not see the return on investment up front, but if there is an incident, you'll see it. But you'll also see an ROI, which most people don't think about, is employee benefits. They feel safer, they're more productive, their morale is higher. So there's a lot of additional sidebar benefits that they may get. On top of that, you create a harder target for your organization.
Exactly.
Therefore, an incident may or may not even occur. So you always want to stay left of bang. All the active shooter things that I've seen, and first, the reality is active assailant now, not just shooter, because that's only one topic. But you really want to stay left of bang and try to prevent it from ever occurring. Most of the classes that I've even gone to here is all about, you're in the situation right now, what do we do? Well, we want to try to avoid that. We want to have that discussion.
Get in front of it, right.
Absolutely. How do we prevent it from even occurring?
So what I find is that people don't understand things like OSHA compliance, right?
We talk about that.
You got to have a workplace violence program or
100%.
policy. And if you don't, they're going to come in and they can actually arrest you. If you're the head guy, if somebody gets hurt, it could be a misdemeanor charge of negligence.
Well, that's one of the things that we cover in liability is the OSHA duty of care clause.
Right.
So we understand recognizable hazards. Old days, that was always just slips and falls. But now workplace violence, if somebody's demonstrated that they may be on the pathway to violence, which most people don't know about, and if you don't, look it up, but they've started down that pathway where they could explode at any given time. If those indicators are out there and an organization doesn't do that, that's a recognizable hazard, and you are just foregoing it.
So are we at the point in society where OSHA can step in and say, you know what, you tell me you didn't think that was foreseeable, we disagree? Or have we crested there and said...
There's already case law for it.
Okay, good. Because, a few years ago it was like, well, how do we know there's going to be a shooter? And, if you're not trained and you don't have a staff that recognizes that stuff...
No, there's already case law for it, and that's one of the things that... if you look up my session, which was today, 11 o'clock, I've put up there a white paper produced by my legal team that outlines the legal liabilities and also the costs associated with that. So the millions of dollars that companies and organizations have lost because of one death, two injuries, things like that, because they were negligent or they were grossly negligent.
Right. That
the warning signs were in their face and they did nothing to stop it or mitigate it.
So tell me what the resistance is. The argument used to be it's money. Oh, we can't afford this. Nope. Everything's affordable now. Sitting down and talking with James is affordable for an initial consultation.
Correct.
It's like they don't want to think it's possible. They don't believe it's possible. What is the disconnect?
That's the mindset. The mindset is it's not going to happen in my organization.
Yeah.
So even when we look at news stories and you see interviews, the first thing people say is, I didn't think it was going to happen to me. It would never happen to me. Organizations, we never thought it would happen here. Well, until we change that mindset, they're not going to invest in that training because they're not going to see any value in it. So it's really about the mindset, and to be honest, it's still a bit of a taboo conversation that people don't want to have.
Yeah.
They'd rather stick their head in the sand and assume it's never going to happen to me.
Now, here's something I never thought about until just now. This often happens on my show where I go, bink, I got a light bulb.
Perfect.
So we do a forensic on a shooting, and what do we learn? Yep, they told somebody about it. Yep, there was documentation. Yep, there's provocation. Yep, it could have been prevented. Most of the time, right? Are we finding the shooters are selecting locations? First of all, they select locations they're familiar with a lot of times, right?
Correct.
But is there correlation between the site selected and those sites not having things in place to mitigate? Do most of those places not have mitigation things in place?
This is true, but you also take a look at places that do have things in mitigation. Sandy Hook, for example, they had metal detectors, they had single point of entry, and that individual was still able to go in there and cause complete carnage. At children that should never be assaulted at that age, they've done nothing.
Right.
And then you look at Aurora, where Aurora, he did reconnaissance and scoped out other areas of opportunity, other targets, and he selected this one because it was softer. They didn't have security.
No security, right.
And he was able to prop back doors, things like that, open. So there is a bit of reconnaissance that is done. And again, this is all pathway to violence.
Right.
No matter who the target is, they're leaving some trail where hindsight always kicks and goes, oh, you know what, I remember seeing that Facebook post.
Almost always, that's right.
Right, and that's the pathway to violence. So it starts thinking, they start thinking of something, and then what they do is they start communicating it, whether it's Facebook or social media, writing it down, my boss, I'm going to get you, and then they start reconnaissance, gathering equipment, and then they do the act. Along the way, they're leaving these breadcrumbs. It's just a matter of, do we see them? And I'll give you a prime example. 2 catchphrases we always hear: see something, say something, and situational awareness.
Right.
How often is that ever actually explained? So when you say situational awareness to a standard employee at an organization,
oh yeah, I don't think they blink. I don't think
do they
get
really
it.
get it?
No, I don't think so.
But how is it that we couldn't in the weekly meeting have a 5-minute discussion on?
I don't know. I think if that manager who should have the conversation is afraid that if he gets it wrong, he's going to be in trouble. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, they gamble. They say, I don't think it's going to happen to us, and if it does, we'll roll the dice. We'll roll the dice.
Now, since you're based out of Las Vegas, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, go ahead.
What the heck's going on with the Mandalay Bay thing? I mean, I got buddies at Metro that say something's weird here. You know,
we're all saying something's weird here.
It is, right? Something's. Yep. We're not getting the. And I'm not, no conspiracy theory, don't call me or email about that. But we are not getting the post-shooting forensics as we do for most shootings, correct?
Most shootings, within 2 hours a reason why, or who the person was.
You know a lot of stuff, yeah.
We know a lot about them. October 1st, doesn't seem to be a whole lot that's being put out there. And again, no conspiracies, but things are conveniently put out after elections, like the body cams that were put out after the local elections. And as a local here, there's something going on for his house to be burglarized in Mesquite.
Right.
After the crime had been committed, how does that happen? Why does that happen?
Now, has this changed your business model? After that shooting, did you find people are more aware and interested?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I've had clients that I was talking active shooter or active assailant with after, and they're part of larger organizations, after October 1st, dead silence.
Oh.
Because this is the feeling that I get. Everyone's circling around MGM, and they don't want to do anything post-haste before the lawsuits are done.
Yeah.
Because they say, oh, well, this is an acknowledgement we weren't prepared. When legally I've been told they can't really be sued for that, whatever. But a lot of places are closing ranks and saying, you know what, we're not going to deal with this until we find out what happens with the lawsuits that are coming for October 1st, which is a terrible scenario.
The lawyers are running, that's it. Sorry, fellas, I went to law school for years, so I get it. But I think liability is a big fear still.
I think the main point that I try to get across to everybody, security professionals all the way down to janitorial services, we have to take some individual responsibility for our own preparedness, our own situational awareness, and it's an individual responsibility. We've seen it in 2 different scenarios at least that we know of where maybe even the police don't respond the way we expect them to.
Right.
So who's in charge of my safety? Well, I am.
Ultimately, that's right.
Absolutely. So I think there has to be a lot more responsibility taken by the individual, and at the same time in a corporate setting, taking responsibility to say, look, I know it's a difficult conversation to tackle, but we've got to tackle it. I'll give a prime example and keep it short. One of the aspects that I pointed out in my class, my training class, was we hire security guards all the time, right? Whether it's in-house or third-party security. How much training do we give those guys?
Not much, and I'm from California where we gave a lot, and that's still not much.
But then also, what's their duty? So one of the things that I talk about is organizations believe that the security guards are going to keep us safe, right?
Yep.
That's the philosophy. That's what we want. But you break down what's their procedure, they're only allowed to observe and report, which conflicts with the overall assumption of they're going to be here to protect us.
Right.
Okay, so let's empower them. Let's hire better staff. Let's give them post orders for specific sites. Do they have rules of engagement? And those are simple fixes that we can do that don't cost anything. It's just that security manager being responsible.
James Cameron.
Thank you, sir.
Say your website one more time for me.
www.scg-lv.com.
I'm glad you said it, not me. Security Concepts Group. Smart young man, has the right answers to things. Check him out. Back in a minute here at ASIS.